Okay, fine. I'm sharing my screen. Once it is visible, say yes in chat box so that we can start. Okay. Hope my screen is visible, right? Anybody can confirm please. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So in our last class, we have started with chemical safety. So we have seen importance, nature of chemicals, what are the different types of chemicals, and we have also seen the MSDS and also list of sections in the MSDS. So today we'll try to cover some of the key points or takeaways from the MSDS, like flash point, boiling point that we have seen, HCAM number, ESC numbers, ADR, etc. We'll look into in detail manner. Okay, fine. So first of all, I'd like to show you this chart. How many of you familiar with this chemicals?
Yes, sir.
How many of you?
Explosives, betadine.
Okay, so basically, this is a classification of the chemicals because in the world we have so many
Yes, sir. Good evening,
chemicals.
sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
नवनीत है सर. सर, लास्ट टाइम सर आपने संडे को जो क्लास दिया था उसमें आपने अपना जो है ये कोड का वो उसमें बताया था आपने. वो वाला सेशन सर मेरे ख्याल से वो पूरा नहीं हो पाया था सर.
कौन सा कोड?
एक से मैं बता रहा हूँ, मैं नोट किया था.
MSDS का?
हाँ हाँ, एमएसडीएस का. हाँ हाँ,
MSDS तो हो गया ना?
एमएसडीएस का सर हुआ. आपने एक वो दिखाया था उसका एग्जाम्पल, ठीक है.
हाँ
मटेरियल का था उसमें
हाँ
आपका.
हाँ हाँ।
हिंदुस्तान पेट्रोलियम का था. तो वो
हम्म।
लास्ट का जो है वो कुछ कवर नहीं हुआ था, स्टार्टिंग का ही कवर हो पाया था.
ऐसे है क्या?
हाँ सर,
मैं सोचा
बिकॉज
कि वो खत्म हो हुआ करके।
नहीं नहीं सर, पहले तो आप उस दिन 2 सेशन था. पहला सेशन में जो है आपने ये टोटल 13 जो ये 5 पॉइंट बताए
हम्म
थे मटेरियल और उसके केमिकल सेफ्टी का. उसके बाद आप मटेरियल
हम्म।
सेफ्टी डेटा फिर दिखाए थे. उसके बाद
हाँ हाँ हाँ।
केमिकल एडिटिव दिखाए थे, फिजिकल केमिकल डेटा और फायर एक्सप्लोजिव रिएक्शन रिएक्टिव डेटा, ये सब बचा था.
ओके ओके Navneet, thank you so much
ठीक
for
है सर. हाँ,
reminder.
मतलब एक
I can I
हाँ,
can
एक
I can
रिकैप टाइप का.
I can take up that. No worries.
ओके
Just
सर,
give me
ओके.
a minute. I will bring that MSDS on the screen. Thank you so much. I thought it is
ओके.
completed. Sorry, that is my mistake. Okay, good. I think we have taken sulfuric acid and petrol as an example for the MSDS. That day we have shown this thing also, like which are the legal requirements. MHIC schedule number 9. Okay, good. So I'll share my screen again. So then we discuss this. I think Navneet, as you said, we covered till physical and chemical properties. I think first aid measures also we covered, if I'm not wrong. Firefighting as well. Yeah, I think from section number 6, I think we have to start. Am I correct? I remember that NFP also we discussed. Navneet, can you please confirm?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So we can start from this section 6, which talks about accidental release measures. So when I say accidental release measures, so it is kind of an spillage or an explosion. So how we can able to react at that situation and what are the measures has to be considered. So here the different types of measures. One is personal precautions for the employees or workers, whoever is nearby that incident. So we have to use personal protective equipment as required, wear self-contained breathing apparatus and also protective suits, evacuate the personnel to safe area, keep people away uh, from the upwind of the spill or leak, ensure adequate ventilation, avoid contact with the skin, eye or clothing. So whenever any such incident happens, we have to use the suitable PPEs, and in case of required, we have to use self-contained breathing apparatus, SCBA sets or protective suits. When I say protective suits or full body suits, then we have to evacuate immediately. So in case of any corrosive or in case of flammable also, it creates if it is in a flammable material, it creates a vapor cloud. In case of any ignition source, it is available nearby, it can able to explode, and also keep people away from the upwind direction. So in the sense, we have to evacuate the people towards the wind direction, otherwise they can chance to expose. So ensure adequate ventilation so that it can able to dilute. In case of any spillage happens in a closed room, it will be difficulty to dilute. So if you can able to provide adequate ventilation or opening all the doors and windows, what will happen? It can able to dilute. It can, or we can reduce the concentration. Then avoid skin contact. So it is in a must and should in case of any corrosive chemical. Hence, it is in a sulfuric acid and a corrosive chemical. We have to avoid the skin contact, eye or clothing. So we have to avoid contamination with the clothes also. And with respect to environmental precautions, we have to avoid release to the environment. And section 12 talks about the ecological information. When I say ecological information, it is about the water bodies. So whenever our gutters are connected to the outside or any nalas or etc., these chemical contamination water should not be mixed with any nearby pools or any water body to protect the animals which lives in the water. So again, we have methods of containment and also cleanup also. So soak up with inert absorbent materials like ammonium phosphate, or they used to use lime to contain this, or uh, caustic soda, or I am not able to recall. It is in a white color powder they used to use for the. It is in a I mean universal material. It can able to contain all the spills and keep it in a suitable or closed containers for the disposal. Once it is contained, when I say contained means collection of the material, or whatever the spills happens. అంటే మనం దాన్ని ఏదైతే కింద పడిపోయిందో దాన్ని కలెక్ట్ చేయటం. Then it has to be stored in a closed container, so that because of hence it is in a corrosive chemical. If you are not closed it, the fumes may uh, come out and it can leads to an exposure with the people. After cleaning, flush away traces with water, so it can able to dilate. The small quantities of uh, material can be diluted with a plenty of water. And next section is handling and storage. So how should we can handle? What are the do's and don'ts while you are handling this sulfuric acid? So every material will have specific principles or specific requirements with respect to the handling and storage. But each chemical is different, so we can't treat every chemical handling precautions are same. So we should be well aware about how should we handle. So handle this product only in closed systems or provide appropriate exhaust ventilations. When I say closed systems, you should not handle this chemicals in the open atmosphere, so that it can generate fumes. So closed system in the sense, no manual intervention. Directly, it comes in the tankers connected to the storage. From storage to the, will have pumps through the pipes. From there, it will comes to the reactors directly. No handling of barrels or etc. Sometimes even the barrels also, the barrels will have protective caps to avoid the fumes which will come out from the barrels. Then mere personal protective equipment like, and also face protection. Do not get in ice. So it means when you say do not get in ice, you have to avoid spillage of chemical into your eyes on skin or on clothing. So we have to avoid contamination of this chemical to our eyes, skin or clothing. When we say clothing, so over a period of time, it can get in contact with our skin also. So do not breathe. So dust, vapor, mist or gas, or do not ingest. When I say breathe in the sense, the vapors we should not breathe. Ingest means swallowing. Ingestion. So we have discussed about entering of chemicals into our body. So one of the entry is ingestion. When I say ingestion, through mouth. If swallowed, then seek immediate medical assistance. If it is accidentally swallowed, then you have to take immediate help or immediate doctor's help. Okay. Then storage. So that is about handling. So we should be cautious. We should not uh, handle this chemical at open atmospheres, and also we should have proper exhaust ventilation systems. While handling, we have to use proper TPs, and also we have to avoid contact or contamination with that chemical. And so we are not supposed to breathe the vapors, dust or mist or gas of this specific this chemical, and we do not ingest, means we should not swallow. If it is accidentally swallowed, you can take the medical assistance. అంటే మనం దీన్ని దాని యొక్క వేపర్స్కి పీల్చుకోకూడదు. హ్యాండిల్ చేసేటప్పుడు పీపీస్ వేసుకోవాలి. తర్వాత ఇది క్లోజ్డ్ సిస్టమ్స్లోనే మనం హ్యాండిల్ చేయాలి. దాంతోపాటుగా కంటామినేషన్ అవ్వకూడదు, అంటే దాన్ని మనం మన మీద పడకుండా చూసుకుంటూ ఉండాలి. దాన్ని కెమికల్ని మింగకూడదు. ఇన్ కేస్ యాక్సిడెంట్లీగా ఏమన్నా మింగితే immediately మనం డాక్టర్ దగ్గరికి వెళ్ళాలి. Then storage. Keep container tightly closed in a dry, cool and well ventilated places or corrosive area. So when it's a corrosive area or incompatible materials, strong oxidizing agents, combustible material, bases, organic materials, reducing agents, finely powdered materials or peroxides. Okay. So it should be whatever the containers. Sometimes what will happen, it will comes in the barrels, 200-liter barrels, HDP barrels. The people take only little amount of the chemical, then they won't keep the caps. I mean, they won't return the caps again. So resulting, there will be any chances of the vapors can come out. And also it should be stored in a closed and also dry and cool ventilated place in case of any small leaks happens. So it can, the ventilation can take away the fumes which is generated, so that we can minimize the concentration of the chemical in the spill area. and it is also good in corrosive areas. Then we have incompatible materials. When I say incompatible, the enemies of this specific chemical is strong oxidizing agents, combustible materials, bases, and also organic materials, reducing agents, finely powdered materials, and also peroxides. These are the few chemicals which are incompatible with this sulfuric acid. And next section, exposure control and also personal protection. So when we talk about exposure controls, these are the limitations. So when I say limitations, so TLV or TWA, time linked value or time weighted average, so which is zero point 0.2 mg per meter cube, which means this is the concentration. It is in the atmosphere. Then OSHA PEL, a permissible exposure limit. So the time weighted average is 1 and TWA is also 1 mg. Then NIOSH, National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health. It is giving the ideal health situations, immediate danger to life and health. 15 mg in meter cube. When you say the concentration of chemical in 50 milligrams in a meter cube, 1 meter cube, it is going to be an ideal health situation. So Mexican given the OEL, overall exposure limit, overexposure limit, 0.2 mg per meter cube. Okay, these are the exposure limits. So we should able to measure these concentration levels to ensure that people are not exposing more than this. So how you can able to handle it? So to protect this, we can have or we can implement some engineering measures, handle in a place equipped with local exhaust ventilation. So sometimes we have the fume hoods, or in the chemical storage also will have an exhaust system. In case of any fumes generated, directly the exhaust system will suck the fumes and it will connect it to the scrubbers. I think whoever is working in chemical industries, they would have well familiar with. So we'll have secondary containment pallets, over that we'll store all these barrels and containers or cans, and then above that we'll have a exhaust system, local exhaust system, like how you see in the modern kitchens. So you'll have an exhaust. Same way, it is a kind of same setup. If you assume the gas stove as an pallet for the chemicals, so above the whatever the vessels we use, those are the chemical containers. So above that we have an exhaust. Same kind of setup will be there, so that it can able to immediately take out the fumes, so that we can avoid the exposure. Ensure that eye wash stations and safety showers are close to the workstations. So this is also important. You should not keep eye wash station or full body showers at 1 kilometer away. So it should be as close as possible, so that we can avoid the exposure, or we can avoid the, or we can, I mean, not avoidance, we can reduce the consequence of the incident. So when I say consequence, the exposure or the damage, we can reduce the damage. So personal protective equipment. So what kind of personal protective equipment we should use? So eye and face protection. Sorry. Any question? Okay. So eye and face protection. So basically, we have to wear appropriate protective eyeglasses like chemical glasses, chemical safety goggles as described by the OSHA's eye and face protection regulations and the European standards. So skin and body protection, you have to wear appropriate protective gloves, clothing to prevent the skin exposures, and respiratory. So we have to follow the OSHA respiratory regulations, and 29 CFR will gives the requirements of these PPs, and also EN 149 NIOSH. So basically NIOSH gives the set the standards on the PPs, and these are the various different standards: European EN 49, These are the standards where they will test the respective respiratory protective equipment. We have to choose the approved type of respirators. And exposure limits are exceeded, or if irritation or other symptoms are experienced. Okay. In case of any such thing, we have to use the suitable or appropriate respirator. Then hygiene measures handle in accordance with a good industrial hygiene and safety practices. When I say hygiene practices, how cleanly, how properly you are handling the chemical. Okay. Then physical and chemical properties. So as I said, it is in a liquid state. It appears colorless or odorless. pH is 1, so it is highly acidic. And melting point is 10 degrees. Boiling point is 290 degrees. Then we have specific gravity, it is 1.8, and decomposition temperature, so 340 degrees. Whenever it reaches 340 degrees, it will get decomposes. Viscosity is 21, then molecular formula H2O4, then molecular weight is 98. I think those details are not so important. This is important. Reactivity hazards, yes. So the next section is stability and reactivity. How stable is this chemical? So reactivity hazard in the sense it can react with the other chemicals. So when we talk about stability, yes, water reactive and also hygroscopic. Then conditions to avoid. What kind of conditions we can avoid to make sure that this chemical is stable? So we have to avoid incompatible products and excess heat, exposure to moist air or water. These are the avoidable conditions or the conditions we have to avoid to make the chemical in a stable state. Then incompatible materials, as we seen previously, strong oxidizing agents, combustible materials and bases, organic materials, etc. Then hazardous decomposition products, hydrogenol sulfuric oxides, polymerization, hazardous polymerization does not occur, and reactions, yes, contact with the metals may evolve a flammable or hydrogen gas, reacts violently with water. Hence, it is enough. This
Sir,
pH is 1, so it
sir,
can highly react with the bases.
hello, sir.
Sorry, your voice is very low.
హైడ్రోజన్ పొలిమరైజేషన్ అంటే ఏంటి సార్?
Sorry,
హైడ్రోజన్ పొలిమరైజేషన్ అంటే ఏంటి సార్?
it is in a kind of no hazardous polymerization in the sense it is a kind of reaction. It will happen. Hazardous means dangerous. It is a kind of chemical process.
పొలిమరైజేషన్ అంటే సార్?
The polymerization is nothing but it is a chemical reaction. Like for example, you'll have different kinds of molecules in that. They'll come together to a large molecule. We'll call it a polymerization.
ठीक है सर.
Even like monomers, but also polymers along with small molecules and byproducts. They try to have a reaction. Okay. Then toxicological information. So it is basically whenever we talk about toxicological information, it basically indicates us the concentration of the chemical within the atmosphere. So basically here we see majorly LD and LD50 and LC50 lethal concentration and also lethal dose. Okay, when I say lethal dose, it is directly injected. Injected to the body or which is given to the specified test animals. Then LC50, it is the concentration in the atmosphere. So when I say concentration, it is in the air. So when I say LC50, well, if you test on 10 animals in this concentration out of 10 animals, if 5 animals got died, we can treat it as the concentration. 0.375 is the LC50. So here they have tested on rats for 4 hours. Okay. Then irritation causes severe burns by all exposure routes. So when I say burns, exposure routes in the sense how you have been exposed with the chemical, sensitization or information available, carcinogenicity. So when I say carcinogenicity, carcinogen means whichever the chemicals which are carcinogenic in nature, they are cancer causing chemicals. Okay. So when I say group 1, yes, it is in a carcinogenic to humans. 2A probably carcinogenic to the humans. 2B also possibly carcinogenic to humans. A1, it is an A2, suspected human carcinogens. Suspected means there might be a carcinogen, depends on various situations. Okay. Then we talk about ecological information. So when I talk about ecological information, so do not empty into the drains. Large amounts will affect pH and also harm aquatic organisms. So basically, you are not supposed to empty into the drains. So this chemical you should not let it go into any drains. So the drains will obviously be connected to the any water streams or water body. So it will make an issue. So you should not do that. Not so large amounts. When you say large amounts, the sulfuric acid in large amount, it can affect or harm the aquatic organisms. Aquatic organisms, nothing but the animals which live in the water body. Okay, the concentration here it is 500 mg per liter in a water. It will going to be harmful. Okay. Then disposal considerations. So this is also very important. So basically, whenever you see these disposal considerations, mostly they will give generic statements to go with the local regions, etc. So here the chemical waste generators must determine whether the discarded chemical is classified as a hazardous waste. So when you are disposing this waste, for example, in case of any spillage happens, you have been recovered with the chemical absorbers and you have stored it. So you have to disclose this as hazardous waste. You can't treat this as a general waste, or you can't treat this as a non-hazardous waste. It is a hazardous waste. The chemical waste generator must also consult local and regional and also national hazardous waste regulators to ensure complete and accurate classification. So if you are not familiar with the classification of this, you can able to contact with the respective people. Okay. Then transport information, again ADOT, TDG, ITTA. I think these are different classifications. Some packaging group codes, then hazardous classification. It is coming under class 8, and that is the UN number for the sulfuric acid. Okay. Then regulatory information. So with respect to the regulatory information, here we have CAS number. Again, it is also been a unique number. And when I say TSCA, it is a registering agency where the Toxic Substance and Control Act, whether it is active or not, whether it is here, it is an active chemical. When I say CROSS, it is listed under US EPA and Toxic Substances Control Act. I think this information is not so important. Then other information, so basically it gives an additional detail in case of
सर
any additional information to be required. Yeah.
कैन यू हियर मी?
Yes.
सर मैं ये पूछ रहा था सर, इसमें क्वेश्चन कैसे आएगा एग्जाम में?
इसमें क्वेश्चन क्या कहता है ना, मैं I mean वो लास्ट क्लास में बोला था. So basically they ask you to write only the list of sections in MSDS. They'll ask you to write the 16 sections of MSDS, or sometimes they only ask write the sections of MSDS, or sometimes they ask what are the various details available in the MSDS. So then you can write product information, first aid information, firefighting information, PP is supposed to be used, handling information, disposal information, like that you can write. Then if they ask about sections, you can write identification of chemical, hazard identification, physical and chemical properties, composition information, first aid measures, firefighting measures, then accidental release measures, handling and storage precautions, and exposure control, etc. etc. They won't ask you to write all these PELs or TELs or any numbers. Majorly, they will ask you what kind of information can be found from the MSDS, or write the various sections in the MSDS. That's all they'll ask. Because it is difficult to remember all the chemicals compositions or PELs or TELs, etc. They ask only the sections to be written. Okay. Shamsuddin, it is available in the, Google. It is an open source. You can simply type in Google MSDS
Yeah.
for
Okay.
sulfuric acid. You can get it.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks. So some of the basic chemicals, mostly all the general chemicals, you can get it in the Google itself. Only few chemicals, maybe the manufacturer will give. Otherwise, most of the common or the old chemicals, you can get it directly in the Google itself. Even I have also taken from the Google only. Okay, fine.
Oh.
So with this, we have done this MSDS. So what I do is I'll flip it to our presentation. Okay, I'll share again. So basically, this is the UN classification of chemicals. So they have been divided all the chemicals into these 9 categories: explosives, gases or flammable liquids or flammable solids, oxidizers, poisonous, radioactive, corrosive, and miscellaneous. So most of the chemicals, whenever you see, they definitely fall under any of this category. Okay. 1 second, please. Okay, I have another 2 minutes. Now we'll see uh, interpretation of MSDS. Some of the uh, points we have discussed already. I just quickly take. So when I say CAS number, it is a chemical abstract service number. So where it is to identify the chemical, or it is a unique number. So how you like an Aadhaar card. For the acetic acid, it is 6419-7. It does not indicate the hazards of the material. The CAS number only indicates a unique number. By that number, you can able to search. Like us, the Aadhaar number is given, you can get the full details of the person, which means name, address, date of birth, where he is from. The next one is UN number, which is United Nations, a 4-digit number. which is assigned to a potential hazardous chemicals, a class of material. So when I say ammonia, which is UN 1005, for the sulfuric acid also we have seen, I think 7813 or something. It is basically assigned for the hazardous materials, UN number. It is in a 4-digit number. Then HAZCAM, which is hazardous chemicals EAC, which is nothing but emergency action code. Okay. So basically, this is how it represents here. You could see 3YE. It means whenever in case of emergency happens, if you are not known about this chemical, this 3YE, I mean the emergency action code will gives us an information how we can handle this specific chemical. Okay. So I'm stopping here for now. We have less than a minute. So after the break, we can start discussing from the HAZCAM code.
सर